Thank you for being here. As you probably suspect by now, I'm going to be talking about UPnP and UPnP mapping. This is a turbo talk, so obviously this is going to be a little fast. I'm going to try to go into as much details as I can, but any other questions or whatever, you can just go to the Q&A and I'll answer any questions. So let's do a brief introduction. Who am I? Not very important, but I'm a security researcher. I started working with security at the tender age of 14. I used to hang out on Undernet and work with ISPs back in the Dominican Republic, which is where I'm from, cable companies and all that. So that's that. What is UPnP? UPnP is Universal Plug and Play. Universal Plug and Play is technology made by the UPnP Forum, which is a code name for Microsoft. They made it back in 1999, and the name probably gave it away that it was something made by Microsoft. The point of UPnP is to make devices work seamlessly, be it connectivity devices or networking devices or media devices. There are also other devices that can be used, but mostly that's what UPnP is used for. So, as you probably suspect, making devices work seamlessly is not a very good idea, or it's a good idea, but it's not very plausible. We're going to talk about specifically IGDs, or the part of UPnP that works with networking devices. As you probably suspect, to make the network devices work seamlessly, you need NAT traversal. How many of you were, raise your hands if you were in the Dan Kaminsky talk? All right. So you probably get the idea, or the basic idea. Basically a device on the LAN uses UPnP to automatically add port mappings on the device, so that WAN devices can access the LAN, which is a great idea, but as you will see, it's not that great if you make it like UPnP does. So IGDs are basically found mostly on DSLs and some other devices. Cable modems, not that much, because cable modems usually are bridged. But if something is routing and doing PPP, it's probably doing IGD. So, big question, and I've been working with Dan Kaminsky on this one, on how many IGD devices are online, and a shed load. I mean, it's amazing. We thought we would have a minority of the devices on the net, but I have personally seen 500,000 devices across different countries open and accepting UPnP requests. So let me, first of all, explain a little bit of how UPnP works briefly. Basically, you start with a discovery process, which relies on multicast UDP. It sends a multicast UDP, and any device listening replies back with a unicast UDP. This unicast UDP, probably you can't read it very well, but it's in the white paper. It describes or points out location, which is just an XML file describing the different services and devices available to execute on that UPnP device. After you get that unicast, which is the blue part, the yellow part, you get to the green part, with this, which is unicast TCP. Basically, it's SOAP requests, and after that, after you get the SOAP request, the description of the device through XML, you send a SOAP request, which maps a port. You probably can't see it either, but over here you have different arguments that you can use, like least duration of the port mapping, internal client, external port, and remote host. Basically, your basic port mapping arguments. So let's do a bit of the UPnP hacking timeline. It started in 2001. Came from FTU Security. He found a couple of denial of service attacks for the Windows XP stack. Obviously, UPnP was implemented in Windows XP first. Microsoft wanted to promote the technology. Then in 2001, again, EI published buffer overflows for the same stack. You probably remember that one. It was pretty popular. Then in 2003, Bjorn Stickler talked about UPnP information disclosure. Now, there's not a lot of information that's being thrown out by UPnP, but it's enough. It's not that good. You'll see with the demo how much information we can get. And then in 2006, Armin Hermel, that's a typo over the R missing, he started publishing UPnP facts on the site upnphacks.org. And he's basically, let's say, like one of the fathers of UPnP hacking. He has examined all the UPnP stacks and described which stacks allow some actions and whatnot. And then in 2008, we had an attack by GNU Citizen, which was pretty smart. It basically relied on the clients, internal clients of a network, sending SOAP through JavaScript. And basically the purpose of that was opening the web administration port of clients that access sites and such. So what are the main problems of UPnP? Well, first of all, it uses the word plug and play. I don't know if you guys remember Windows 98 and plug and play and the whole idea. It didn't work. I mean, it's not rocket science, and every time I see plug and play anywhere, I just have to look it up because I don't want to go through the same nightmares that we went through in the early or late 90s. So the other thing with plug and play, it's a pretty nice idea. We would love to have things plug and play, but it doesn't work good with security. I mean, you can't have secure devices plug and play, being plug and play. I mean, you need to authenticate something, you need to ask questions and all that. Well, that's one of the main problems of UPnP too. UPnP has no authentication whatsoever at all. In fact, the only way they consider an entity that could actually execute commands is just if they have an IP assigned for, and which is ridiculous. I mean, it's like DEF CON sitting down and saying, oh, how are we going to let people in? How would we know who we would let in? And then someone said, if they exist, they can't come in, which is ridiculous. I mean, don't even go through it. After that, the other problems are that most stacks do not validate data. And what we mean by this is that, first of all, UPnP was made or designed for LAN use only. And that's not true, unfortunately. But not only that, port mappings were designed to work for internal hosts that wanted to traverse the net and add port mappings. So in this case, most stacks, or a lot of stacks, do not check if the internal IP is actually on the LAN or internal. So what that actually allows us is to stick any IP that we want in that port mapping. So if I want to say add a port mapping at the device pointing to Amazon IP at port 80, it's doable in most devices, which is also a little bit weird. The other problem is, as I was saying, UPnP was designed for LAN use, and most or a lot of devices use or allow indiscriminate WAN requests. I mean, requests of UPnP actions coming from the WAN, which doesn't make any sense. In fact, the UPnP protocol says not to do that. But to be, it's that the IGD version 1 protocol says specifically it's not recommended to do that. To give them credit, though, on the IGD version 2 paper, they made that sentence on caps, so I guess they're making a better point now. And on the other hand, we have devices that don't even log UPnP requests. I mean, we can play with it, do whatever we want with it, and no one will ever see it because the device doesn't have the capacity of logging in, which is also a bit weird. There's also a ton of other problems. We have command execution on some stacks, and as you saw, denial of service and buffer overflows. In fact, denial of service is so bad that when I was programming UMAP, or the tool I'm going to showcase, I accidentally crashed my modem like 1,000 times, and I didn't even do anything. I'm just sending bad requests, and the device will go dead. So the devices affected so far, we don't know yet how many devices are affected, but obviously some vendors have taken into account what's been going on, and we have Linksys, Edimax, Sitecom, Broadcom, which is not listed here. But the most common stack on the net, which is vulnerable, is the SpeedTouch or Thomson or now Technicolor stack. We have devices roaming around the net on big amounts. So UMAP, the tool, what is it? First of all, it's a SOX proxy server that forwards or pipes the request through UPnP devices. I'm going to explain it a little bit better and a little bit further down the road. It's also a TCP UDP scanner for hosts behind the IGD NAT. Basically, we can scan the services of the host inside the NAT from outside. And also a manual port mapper for UPnP devices. So how does it work? As I explained at the first part of the presentation, UPnP relies on multicast. So that is not a very good scenario for a one request or search. Obviously, we can't use multicast on the one. So basically what we do is we skip that part completely, and we just go on to fetching the XML description files, so the locations. It's pretty simple. It's like fetching HTTP files, not that big of a deal. And then it also uses the control part of the UPnP protocol, which is actually what executes the actions or the commands that UPnP allows on devices.